Well, welcome to another edition of the DxTx Partners Podcast. I'm very, very excited to have Dr. Dan Kloster, interventional pain physician in Kansas City, joining us. He's also, interestingly, the founder of a company, inFormed Consent, that he's going to talk to us about today. And I also have Mindy Wortmann. She is a APP in St. Louis, Missouri at Interventional Pain Institute, and also the national lead for DxTx APPs. Welcome to both of you. I'm going to start with you, Dr. Kloster. Give us a little bit of your background and in your time in pain management, also kind of what you've seen change in pain management since you've entered the field.
Well, thanks for having me. So always nice to be on. And, I'm a pain anesthesiologist, so finished anesthesia a long, long time ago. So I've been doing this for over 25 years, for God's sake. So I don't feel that old, but I like everyone else, it kind of catches up with you, right? So love pain, an interventional pain doc. So always been very interventional. But the most exciting thing for me, quite frankly, is probably the last, call it 5, 7, 8 years, where we've really been introduced to more minimally invasive things. So, I spent my whole career kind of doing 3 epidurals and then putting in stimulators for people. And there was really nothing in the middle of that, right? And even though they had SI pain, we really didn't diagnose it well. We certainly didn't treat it well because we didn't have anything to offer. And, there was nothing for the spinal stenosis, right? We could give them epidurals, and then you could, a lot of these people were not surgical candidates. They're 80, 90 years old, for goodness sakes. And so that's my biggest thing, is that now as a pain provider, we have so many options to make these people well and, increase their pain relief for, years with minimally invasive procedures. So that's been my, biggest thing that I've seen and really, really enjoyed being a part of.
Very good. Mindy, give us a little bit of your background. What do you do in St. Louis at IPI?
So I'm Mindy Wortmann, and I am the lead nurse practitioner at Interventional Pain Institute based out of St. Louis, Missouri. I work with Dr. Remy Skythe as my primary collaborative, and I'm also the lead APP for DxTx Pain and Spine.
Awesome. Welcome. We are very, very proud of Mindy, and she does a lot for us and touching all of our APPs throughout our network. Dr. Kloster, I'd like to talk about, you developed a new platform for improving the patient experience when they're considering surgery. Can you give us the story on how that came about? How did you get into this? Why did you get into this?
Yeah, so my company's inFormed Consent, and I'm still a practicing doc, right? So I see all the headaches, the risks, the pitfalls, and the patient education. So how it started, honestly, was I got sued on an epidural hematoma, so a known complication, right? So we have known complications, but generally have a dissatisfied patient. And that's exactly what happened. And so the patient was treated appropriately, no neurologic deficits, required surgery, and really just a good outcome for a bad situation, right? Well, I get served with a lawsuit a couple of years later and says, we never told me. And that's not true. We educate all of our patients. But what that experience taught me was written consent has zero value in a court of law. And that really stuns people when unless you've been involved with that, you don't understand that. You assume that you consented, right? You told them everything and they consented, they signed the paper, were covered. But if you think back about it, we use the same consent form for an epidural as a heart transplant, right? I mean, that's why they're fill in the blank. And so patients don't read it, then, the patient really kind of are justified more or less to say, listen, you weren't told. Well, I did tell them, but they didn't remember it. So it becomes a he said, she said. So that's the backstory, I just said I had to do something different. Well, through that, I just formed this company. We have bespoke, so tailor-made videos for every procedure in pain. So we have the pain library built out. I think we are up to 60 some regenerative. We have orthopedics. We have plastic surgery. We have several libraries built out. But if you have an epidural, you get an epidural consent. If you have a spinal cord stimulator, you get a spinal cord stimulator consent. And the consent video really educates the patient. It talks about the procedure, but the good, the bad, the alternatives. So we cover everything that needs to be done in that consent. And I really feel confident. I'm really proud of what we did. We set out to protect the doctor, and we've done that. I feel very proud with that. But the really happy accident was my co-founder, Jason Penrod. He's a very talented videographer, artist, but also really good with software. So he's moved on, but Hallmark is a Kansas City company, and most of us heard of Hallmark. And I always joke and say everything in Hallmark that wasn't a card was Jason. So he's this really talented guy. But when we did this together, he said, Dan, we have to give the patient back something, right? The patient's giving us consent. We need to give them something back. So he really wanted to have an educational platform as well. And through the consent, we started educating the patient. They learn now about the procedure, the epidural or the spinal cord stimulator, and they were getting a video at home. Well, the conversion rate was significant for my patients. So to kind of continue with this long answer is a spinal cord stimulator. Most pain docs that are listening to this, they all know that, and a lot of the APPs know. But it's it's an implantable device in the back. And even though I've done, I'm in the thousands, my patients had one, right? So for them, and I feel very good about how I describe it to my patient, but my patient goes back home and talks to their spouse and says, well, what did Kloster tell you? Oh, he's going to put a wire in my back. Well, that's not what I said, but that's what they heard. And they're like, oh, Kloster's an idiot. You're not going back to see him. So the national average for getting a stimulator, even if I suggest it, is less than 20%. And I just assume that 100% of my patients, they all listen to me, right? Well, there's a lot of reasons why people don't go forward with something. And one is that's education. So now that I've been implementing this, and Mindy can probably speak better to me than on this as well, that now have 70% of patients that go forward with a spinal cord stimulator, because the educational piece really makes them comfortable. And so it's really been fun for that, for, just seeing how understanding the patients are and how good these videos really are to explain things at a very understandable level.
Mindy, I know you're one of the first adopters, at least in our network, with an informed consent. Talk a little bit about what you see, like how many people have you consented with this and used this platform with?
We've consented several hundred patients over the course of the past year with using informed consent. I can see very clearly how it impacts the patient in their ability to not just consent to the procedure, but understand fully what's going to happen and help them come to any questions that they may have that they didn't think of prior to the day of the procedure. The informed consent video has, a lot of detail that reiterates to the patient in language that they understand to be able to fully adapt what we're planning on doing and why, and any risks associated with that procedure, and also any alternatives that they may have.
I know the APPs, a lot of times the front line with the patient, and then the working up of the patient for the advanced procedure. And Mindy, you've moved thousands of people through IPI to advanced procedures. What does this solve for? Like, what were some of the things that would keep people from committing or going through with their procedure, and how has this helped solve for that? What were the sort of the roadblocks?
So I feel like being able to provide them with another explanation, perhaps saying the same thing in a different way, is helpful, but also guiding them to a way where they can access that information again, rewatch it in the comfort of their own home, be able to watch it as many times as they feel like they may need to, share it with their family members to help them explain it to the family members who help decide what their treatment plans, what they would go forward with. All of that is helpful in adopting the treatment plan.
Dr. Kloster, can you talk a little bit about just really kind of how the platform looks that helps a patient be able to navigate this, and just if you talk about the avatars and the videos and kind of the cool features of it that I've seen, and as an old guy, I'm like, this stuff's amazing to me. This is absolutely amazing. But can you talk about that?
Yeah, no, listen, and it really is. I mean, the evolution of this company has been fun because, again, I told you why we set out to do it, but now we've gotten into some really fun things for the patient adoption, the education. So one of the things, right, the avatar. And so avatars have become so good, and I'm my own avatar. So if you become a client of ours, we make your avatar. And so we put the doctor, so the patient feels comfortable. Mayo did a study that 100% of patients were comfortable watching the avatar, and not 99, not 50, 100%. So what happens is you're starting to engage with the patient more. They're understanding of that. And so now for these very tailored videos, the patient's hearing it from me, right? There's so many things, the avatar, and I know that Mindy can speak to this as well. We can do this in different languages, right? And so we have had, requests from, DxTx physicians. Dr. Geith has said, hey, listen, we've got, I think we've done several different languages, and we can turn those around within hours and get a different language. So he said the patients were so appreciative to, have that. And they get to look at it at home. They can share it to what Mindy said. The wife can't always be at the appointment. The husband can't be there. Everyone's got some medical person in their life somewhere across the country, right? And that cares about them. And, your daughter in med school, right? I mean, you come in and I talk to you about something. You're like, well, let me just send this to her. And, she can call back and say, hey, okay, now I understand this. And so it's had this really positive, fun stuff that we keep adding and adding to just make life, better educating the patient.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. I got a chance to test this, right? They'd send over to take a look, and it was you. It was you, Dan, that I was watching the video of. And when I looked away from the video, it stopped.
Yeah.
And then when I re-engaged, now that was a little spooky, but then it started back up again, and your avatar was talking to me again.
Yeah.
Can you tell you why you have that feature to it?
Yeah. And so, sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, that's exactly it. So that's a good point. Like, we're all watching each other on Zoom right now, and we're talking. And if, the patient is not engaged, so if I would turn away or get interrupted, we have the video paused. And that video, so our patented technology, and right now we have 3 patents issued. We have a 4th one that will be issued shortly. We have patent families open. So we have the patent for the forward-facing camera. And why that matters is the patient can't say they weren't engaged. They can't say that they didn't understand, they didn't hear it, because we write these videos, and I think they're written at a 6th grade level, all the consents. But if the patient gets disengaged or turns or moves out of frame, it'll pause. And once they come back in frame, it'll complete the video. And these videos run about 4 to 5 minutes for an epidural, for a spinal cord stimulator, whatever the case may be. And then the patient has to sign the iPad, and that gets stored up in the cloud forever. So the practice has that consent saved. Now, that same video goes to the patient's home, so they can rewatch the spinal cord stimulator. They can rewatch the epidural. They can rewatch whatever that is. But we purposely put that part of our aspect in to protect the physician, and it works well.
Really neat technology. Mindy, on just the actual execution of this side, because that's where kind of the rubber meets the road, right? How do we implement in the practice? Can you walk us through a little bit of, like, what's the process with a patient? When is this handed to them? When do they see it? And then just tell me, like, what has their reaction been?
So in our clinic, when I meet with a patient, explain their pathology, do the exam, talk to them about what their treatment options are and what the best treatment is to help with their pain, we make a decision about the planned procedure, and I will have the staff load the video after I finished my visit. So I'll tell the patient, okay, sounds like, you're best suited for a lumbar epidural steroid injection. I'm going to bring in a video that's going to help reiterate all the things that we just talked about, and then you can learn more about risks, benefits, and alternatives. Obviously, all of the features with the informed consent are nice to be able to watch it again and share it with family members. I'll leave the exam room and bring back the tablet and ask the patient to watch the video. And then when they're through, they'll let us know that they're done. And if they have any additional questions based off of the information from watching the video, we can talk about that.
Dr. Kloster, your original intent of this was to protect physicians from malpractice claim. Is informed consent a claim that you see frequently for pain management physicians?
Yeah, no, listen, we're in the high risk. So there's several specialties, right? So orthopedic surgery, spine surgery, pain, neurosurgery, general surgery. any procedural physician is at risk. And we do so many procedures that my joke is that if you drive truck for a living, you will hit a deer, right? I mean, it's just going to happen. And you didn't do anything wrong. It's just going to happen. So back to my epidural hematoma, it's a known complication. And informed consent, it's listed almost half for a lawsuit that goes forward. The plaintiff side, right? They're looking for anything to help stack the deck in their favor. And informed consent is generally tacked on about half the time. And it's an oppressive number. They'll just say, hey, I was never told. I would have never had the procedure had I known there was an infection. Well, that really is disingenuous, but they will say that. And so, yes, we unfortunately are all at risk. And, it's a little frustrating. We see these nuclear verdicts, right? And, we're all trying to do the right thing. And so it doesn't protect you if you did something bad, right? If you're supposed to operate in the left leg, you operate in the right leg, well, you got to write the check. But for the known complications, and we see some of these verdicts now going out, and we all see the headlines, someone bad outcome and they're getting sued for 50 million. They're getting, 30 million, 20. It's like, that, how do you recover from that, right? And we all have malpractice insurance. I think most states require it, not all, but and you've got substantial policies, and all of a sudden you get a $20 million verdict against you. How do you recover, right? And so I think from a practitioner standpoint, it's necessary. But I think a lot of the features that we've done make it worth the while for the efficiencies of the clinic, for, helping out in that aspect of the clinic to get it implemented. But it's still a big deal to, consent is still a big deal, and it's law. It's law.
Mm-hmm.
You can't not do it.
Right. We've rolled it out at just about every practice at DxTx, and getting real positive feedback from our physicians on this. And occasionally say some of the bumps that they run into, just what Mindy's practice runs really smoothly and very efficiently, but for some are a little less efficient, and it can be a little cumbersome. I saw an announcement come out about remote consent.
Yeah.
How might that be something that is going to be helpful, even to take more burden off the practice at that point of contact?
Yeah. So thanks. Really proud about this one. So right now, DxTx and myself have always used the iPad. So what we do is we give the clinic an iPad, and it's preloaded with whatever videos is necessary for that practice. But one of the complaints we did get, or just a suggestion, wasn't even necessarily complaints, like, God, how cool would this be if we could consent people anywhere? And so back to my co-founder, he cracked this nut, and we can now consent people on the moon, right? So if you have good Wi-Fi and a forward-facing camera, just like we're talking here, we can now consent people on your phone, your home computer, the iPad, wherever you can do it. And so it just gives a different level of efficiency. So let's just talk about a spinal cord stimulator. You might be someone who we say, hey, you're going to follow up in 2 weeks, and we kind of know we're leaning to a stimulator, or you get a patient that says, hey, I'm coming in for an epidural, I'm coming in for a stimulator. The office can send that video before, and the patient can get that before. So this does not take the place of the practitioner. So Mindy put it very well. She's still having the conversation. So we're all having that conversation, but it's a little bit like having a TED Talk now, because the patient can get that whole video beforehand. So now instead of a 20-minute conversation about spinal cord stimulator, maybe it's a 5-minute conversation. So we have absolutely seen that, the efficiencies in the clinic. So I've been using the remote in my clinic now for the last few weeks, and it's been great. And so now we're going to roll it out nationally. And I believe that Mindy, I think your office is going to be one of the first to get it.
Mindy, what do you think? Do you think this will be sort of an advantage on top of what you're already getting out of informed consent?
Absolutely. I can't wait for the remote consent. I
Yeah.
think that feature is going to be
Yeah.
tremendous, because even if I have prepared for my day and I see a patient coming in and I know the procedure that they're going to be best suited for, I can confirm their appointment, send them the
Yeah.
videos so that they come in prepared, knowing what we're going to talk about. And perhaps, if their family members have watched the video and they want to come to the visit because they have additional questions or they just want to be involved, I think the remote consent is going to be fantastic for all people involved.
Yeah, and that's really the feedback that we've had, and that's why we did it. So yeah, thanks.
Mhm.
You will. It's been a really it's been really good. And again, it doesn't take the place of the conversation with the practitioner, right? You're still enjoying your patients. I mean, listen, we're chronic pain physicians, practitioners, right? And we really like our patients, and we get to know them, and so we still want to engage with them. But to have it a more focused conversation, it's really helped with the efficiencies of the clinic.
I really appreciate anything that's going to make things easier for my physicians,
Yeah.
things that protect our physicians, and that just makes things better, especially in our current environment. Dan, any final words from you? Mindy, you?
Yeah, I just like to add one other fun feature that we're just about to roll out, and you guys don't have it yet, but on the heels of remote, we're going to do what's called a one-touch patient journey. And what does that mean? So when we started talking about the adoption of therapies, that some patients, they get intimidated, they're not going to do that well. Back to my spinal cord stimulator, right? So why don't more people get on the table when we all know it's a really good therapy for the right patient and it's still less than 20%? Well, one of the problems is the psychological evaluation. Well, again, I've done thousands. I'm not intimidated by it. I say, hey, Mike, you need a psych eval. Well, you go home and think, Kloster says I'm crazy. Well, that's not what I said, but maybe that's what you heard. And so you're not coming back. So psychological evaluation is very intimidating to the patient. So the other thing is prior auth. They don't understand prior auth very well. So they said, well, he talked to me about a stimulator on Monday, and it's 2 months later and I don't have a stimulator. So Kloster doesn't like me, right? And I've called the office. They haven't called me back. And we have called them back, but they didn't pick up because it's an unknown number or something to that effect. So what we've done now is we've now implemented a series of touch points. So now the stimulator, we say, okay, it's going to take 8 weeks. I talked to you about a stimulator today, Mike, and all of a sudden you get an email from my office that you say, hey, Mike, Dr. Kloster here, and my avatar, and I say, listen, I'd like you to watch this testimony of a patient has a stimulator. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool. You see someone who's like, God, they can go to Disney World with their kids. They can go to the park with their dog. A few days later, we say, hey, would you like to meet a patient ambassador? Someone who's got the exact same device that you have. It's like, I would love to talk about a patient ambassador. You hit the button on the screen, and that email can go to Medtronic or Abbott or DxTx, wherever we want that email to go, and that patient can do there. We can do another video a few days later and say, hey, we haven't forgotten about you. Just prior auth, we're talking to your insurance company, and this is why we have to do it. They're like, oh, so Kloster hasn't forgotten about me. And we can set up a cadence of several videos. We can send pre-op instructions. We can send post-op instructions. We can send this whole cadence we want to touch the patient, but we want to touch them from the doctor's office, right? Because the patients like Mindy, they like me. They don't want to be dealing with Abbott or have a Super Bowl commercial, right? They want to have an email that's very personalized. But that's the next thing that you guys will see, and we're going to do. It's called the one-touch patient journey, and we're doing that for a lot of the bigger procedures that we do because we know that it moves the needle and makes patients more educated and comfortable.
Well, that's really neat. I think that'll definitely have an impact. Mindy, any final words?
I'm really excited about the one touch patient journey. I feel like patients sometimes feel like, they've lost all hope if they have a condition that they've been suffering from a really, long time frame, and them understanding that there are other patients who have successfully gained control of their pain or their condition. It's really exciting. I'm happy that this is a new feature that is going to be coming out soon.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Dan, I was in Austin about a month or so ago and had some fantastic brisket down there. And I know Kansas City is strong too. So I'm going to come out and visit you in Kansas City
Absolutely.
and try the best barbecue that we can get in Kansas City.
Absolutely. We'll trump Austin, no problem. I don't worry about that.
All right. Well, I appreciate you both joining us on the DxTx Partners podcast. You can find us on Spotify, LinkedIn, our DxTx YouTube channel. Follow us on our DxTx website and follow us on LinkedIn. And there's a lot of ways to access this. So thank you very much. You guys enjoy everything that's coming up with informed consent. And Mindy, keep doing what you're doing. We appreciate you.
Thanks,
Thank
Mike.
you both.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.